Hello everyone, welcome to this section. In this section, we're going to talk about functions in Python. So a function is a block of reusable code that performs a specific task. Functions can help us to organize our code, make it more readable, and reduce repetition. In Python, there are two types of functions: built-in functions that are predefined functions like print, len, input, that so far we've worked with many of them in the previous sections, and user-defined functions, functions that we create ourselves. This is the function that we are going to learn in this section. So how to define and call a function. A function is defined using def keyword followed by the name of the function and parentheses. Here, I want to show how to create a function. We use the def keyword and we name the function. For example, this function name is greet, and then the parentheses. In the parentheses, we will learn later in this section that we can pass some arguments to these parentheses later on in this section. But for now, we just know that we need to put parentheses. Then a colon. After that, we are having this print function here. So this is the built-in function, and this is the user-defined function. And this function is going to print hello world message for us in the terminal. So when I want to call this function, I simply just type down the name of the function followed by parentheses, and then this function is called and this function is executed. So when I run this code, you should see hello world message in the output. So now it's compiling because it's for the first time. It may take a bit of time. Okay, now we're having hello world in the output. We saw that we only had this function call here one time, and one time this function executed, and this function is simply typing down hello world. So if I call this function more than once, this function is going to be executed. Oh, sorry, greet. So when I call this function twice, this function is being called twice, therefore this part is executed twice. So whenever we call the function, the compiler goes up here, starts with the first line of the function, and this function is only have a single line, so it is going to print hello world. So we saw that how we can create a function and how we can call a function. And there are three parts for function to remember: the def keyword, the name of the function, and parentheses. And later on, we'll learn about some arguments that we may want to include in the parentheses. So here we could, instead of calling this function, I could type down print hello world. And if I wanted to have it twice, I could type it down twice. Okay, and then run the code. It was going to do the same thing. However, we are using the function to avoid repetition. Now I'm repeating this line twice. Instead, I'm having this code being executed here once and avoiding the repetition. Okay, and it is increasing the readability. So this is why we use functions. And this is just a very tiny example here. For example, we want a function to do some mathematical operations for us. Whenever we call the function, that function is going to execute a certain block of codes to do the mathematical operations for us. And calling a function is much easier, like twice, three times, four times. If you want to call a function four times, it's much easier to repeat all those mathematical operations in the code four times. So it increases the readability of the code as well. So in this section, we're going to focus on functions, and we're going to have more examples of functions later on in this section. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to talk about parameters and arguments. Functions can take parameters to make them more flexible. So a parameter is a placeholder inside the parentheses in the function definition. When calling the function, we provide arguments which are actual values. Let me illustrate it with an example here. So I'm using the def keyword. The name of the function is greet, and then inside the parentheses, I'm having one argument or a parameter, let's say. Okay, so this parameter is called name. This function, when it is called, it is going to execute this line of code. It is going to print hello message followed by the name that is passed to this function as an argument. Okay, so this function is going to type down hello message and then type down the name. But what is this name? So when in the main part I'm calling this function, in the parentheses I'm passing Alice. Okay, and this Alice, when the greet function is called, this Alice is going to be passed to the greet function as an argument. And here in the greet function, Alice is stored in the name parameter. And here when I'm printing the hello and then putting the name there, here it is going to print out Alice. So when I run this code, here I'm having hello Alice. So hello is the default message of this function. And whenever I'm calling this function, I'm passing one name. And this name is going to be executed and placed here after hello. Okay? And then I'm calling the function one more time. And this time I'm passing Bob as the argument. So when I pass the Bob here, the greet function is going to be executed and Bob is going to place in the name parameter, and the name parameter now holds the Bob value, Bob string, and then it is going to print the message hello and then the Bob here. So we saw that how we can call a function with an argument. But in this case, because this function is having an argument in the parentheses, can I just call the function without any arguments? So let us run. The answer should be no. So when I run, I'm having an error here. In the previous video example, we saw that there was no error. But why we are having an error here when I'm calling the function with empty parentheses? The reason is that in the definition of the function, we are having the name parameter declared here. So whenever we are calling this function, we are obliged to pass an argument here, okay? And that argument is going to be printed out in the output of this function. So this function requires to have one argument to be called, and we are passing no argument here. This is why there is an error. But if I have a message here when I'm calling the function, I'm having the Reza Shahin, a string to be passed as an argument for the greet function. Reza Shahin is going to be placed for the name, and then it is going to print hello, and instead of name, because now I'm calling the function with this string, it is going to say hello Reza Shahin. You see here? So this was a coding exercise of how to declare a function, how to call a function, and also how to use parameters or arguments when calling a function. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about return statement in functions. So functions can return a value using the return statement. The value returned can be stored in a variable for further use. Let me illustrate it with an example. So here I'm having a function called add. To declare this add function, I'm using the def keyword, and in parentheses, I'm having two parameters or arguments. They are separated by a comma. The first one and the second one. The first one is called A and the second one is called B. Whenever we call this function is going to return A plus B. Okay, so this function is going to add the first number and the second number that are passed to this function by doing this line, return A plus B. So let me show you how I'm calling this function. Now when I call this function, I'm having a variable called result, and this result variable equals the result of this function, the output of this function equals this result variable. So I'm calling the add function. So I'm typing down the name of the function. Then in parentheses, I'm having two numbers and they are separated by a comma, 3 and 5. So 3 is going to be equal to a because this is the first parameter or argument that is passed to this function. And 5 is going to be set to b because this is the second argument that is passed to this function, and b also is the second argument. So I'm calling the add function and I'm passing 3 and 5. And when I'm calling this function is going to return a value for me. It is going to return the value a plus b for me. And a plus b equals 8. So the output of this function is going to be assigned to my result variable here. So 8 is going to be stored in the result. And now I'm printing out the result. So when I have the output, when I run the code, I see that when I'm printing the value of result, I see 8 in the output. I can have, for example, a new variable called x equals add, and then I'm having 2 and 2. I can have y add 5 and 6, for example. I could have z equal add, for example, x and y. And in the output, I would like to have the result of x, then x, print the result of y, then print y, and then finally I want to show the result of z and have the z here. So what I'm doing here is that, again, like the result variable, I'm declaring three new variables, x, y, and z. I'm calling the add function, asking the function add to perform the a plus b with two numbers, 2 and 2. So when I call this add function, the first 2 is placed for the a, the second 2 is placed for the b, and a plus b is going to be returned when I'm having this line, and the result of the return, the output of the function is going to be stored in x. So I expect the value of x will be 4. Then I'm calling the function another time and assigning the result to variable y. And when I'm calling the function, I'm having 5 and 6. So 5 is a and 6 is b. 5 plus 6, the result is 11. So I expect to have the 11 for the y. So 11 is the output of this function, and this is going to be assigned to variable y. And then I'm calling the function one more time, this time with the variable x and variable y, and they are previously taken two values. So I expect the result will be 15 because x is 4 and y is 11. So x is now placed for the a and y equals b. So 4 plus 11 equals 15. So when I run this code, I see the result of x. So here also I'm printing out the output of x, y, and z. The result of x equals 4, which we expected. The result of y equals 11, which we expected. And the result of z equals 15, which we expected. So this is how we can have a return statement in a function to give us some output of the function, and we store that output in, for example, certain variables for further use here. And also we learned how functions can be useful, because now I'm performing this line of code a plus b one time only, but I'm using it 4 times in my code. Instead of typing down these mathematical operations 4 times, I'm just calling it with different parameters. So it is much easier to have a function to do the job for us, and we have different part of the code where we call the function to do that job for us. So we don't have any repetition. We are having the mathematical operations being written only once. This is how it can reduce the amount of code that you're going to write, and this is how it is going to improve the readability of your code, because you're typing down the operations one time, but when we are going to have like 10 times of this operation, instead of having it 10 times being repeated in the code, and it would be not very easy to read, it would be hard to follow. Okay, another time I'm having for example, a plus b, another time I'm having 2 plus 2, 5 plus 6, x plus y, etc. Instead of having these, I'm just calling the function, and the code is being reused several times, and it is being written one time only. So this is how useful the functions are in Python. In the next videos, we're going to dive deeper into this concept. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture. In this section, we are going to focus on lists in Python. So a list is a collection of items that are ordered and changeable. They are created using square brackets, and items in lists are separated by commas. A list can store items of different types, for example, integers, string, or even other lists. And we can access the list elements using index, starting from 0. Let me illustrate it with an example. In order to declare and initialize a list called fruit here, we are having a square bracket here, and there are 3 elements in this list of mine, and they are separated by a comma. So you see here, there are strings. This is why we are having double quotes. There are 3 elements, and they are separated by commas here, and they are declared in square brackets here, sorry. In order to access elements of a list, we can simply use the print function, type down the name of the list, and then the index. Okay, so because our indexing system starts from 0, we are having 3 elements with these indexes. So apple is the first one, so the index is 0. Banana is the second one, the index is 1, and cherry is the third element in this list, but its index is 2. So 0, 1, 2 are the indices in this list of us, okay, of ours. This is very important to note that all of the lists start from indexing 0. Please keep that in mind. So if I want to print the first element of this list, I'm going to type down the name of the list, and in the square brackets, I'm going to type down the index. So if I want to print apple, I'm typing down index 0. If I want to print banana, I'm typing down index 1. And if I want to print out cherry, I'm typing down the index 2 here. So let me run this code. So when we run this code, we see in the output apple, banana, and cherry. So in this video, we learned about lists and how to create them and how to access the elements of a list. In the next videos, in this section, we are going to dive into deeper concepts of lists, and we are going to have some practical coding exercises, so we can have a comprehensive view and understanding of lists in Python. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture. In this video, we are going to talk about how to modify a list. So lists are mutable in Python. It means that we can change their elements by accessing their index or performing certain operations. We are going to write a program to replace the second item in a list with orange. Okay, so our original list is here. So it's called fruit. It has 3 elements: apple, banana, and cherry. And we also learned that the index of banana is 0. The index of apple is 0, the index of banana is 1, and the index of cherry is 2. So we would like to write a program to replace the second item in the list with orange. So the second item in the list is banana. We're going to modify this banana and replace it with orange. But how can we do that? It's very easy. We type down the name of the list and the index of the second item, banana, which is the index is 1. Based on 0, starting from 0, the banana index is 1. And we are setting equal sign to orange. This way, I'm modifying the second element of this list. After that, I'm printing my list. How? I'm using the print keyword and put down the name of the list. So when I run this code, we see that apple, orange, and cherry is being now printed in the output. But what if I would like to change cherry to something else? So for example, I would like to modify cherry. So I would type down the name of my list and the index of my third element, which is cherry, and the index is 2, and I'm going to uh, have the equal sign, and I'm just typing down pineapple. Okay, so now I would like to replace cherry with pineapple and then print out the fruit list. So when I run this code, I see this new list of mine here: apple, orange, and pineapple. So this is basically are the rules of how to access certain elements in a list for further modification. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture. In this video, we're going to learn how to modify a list using 3 predefined functions in Python. First append, then extend, and then insert. So append adds an item to the end of the list. So using append function, we can use only one item each time that we're using and calling this function to the list. Having the extend function, we can add multiple items at the same time to the end of the list. And using the insert function, we can insert an item to the list at a specific position. So let us illustrate these with an example. So we would like to write a program to append orange to the list, extend the list with grape and melon, and then insert kiwi at index 1. Let me illustrate it. So we are having this original list called fruits. It has 3 elements: apple, banana, and cherry. So when I have this list, the index of apple is 0, banana is 1, and cherry is 2. And we were told to append orange to the list. To do that, I'm typing down the name of the list dot append, which is the name of the function, and in parentheses, I'm typing down in double quotes because it's a string orange when calling this append function. So one more time: fruits, the name of the list, dot append, and in parentheses I'm typing down the elements that I would like to add, and because in this case our item is a string, we are having double quote. Okay, and then I'm printing the fruit list one more time. So here I expect to have apple, banana, cherry, and orange finally in the end. So orange is added after this modification to the list. Previously, we were having up until cherry. So let me comment the rest of the code so we see the output one by one. So when I run this code, I have this fruit list being printed: apple, banana, cherry, and orange. So now we learned how to use append to add orange to the end of our list. But this append is very useful when we want to add one item at a time to the list. If we want to add multiple items at the same time, it's better to use the extend function like here. So I'm typing down the name of my list and I'm putting dot extend, which is the name of the function that we introduced above here and here also. And we were told to extend the list with grape and melon. Okay, so when we are having the parentheses, in the parentheses, we need to have a square braces. Be very careful about it. Sorry, a square brackets, and then having two items separated by a comma. If we were having three items, we were going to have another comma here, then pineapple, for example, here. Okay, so I'm not going to add pineapple because it was asking only for grape and melon. So we use the extend function. We are having the parentheses here, as we see here. Extend has parentheses, but square brackets are used here and in the start and the end of the function before the end of parentheses, and then we are having grape and melon separated by a comma, and they're in double quotes because they are string. After that, we are printing out the fruit function. So we were having apple, banana, cherry, and orange. So up until here is the same as the last version of our list, but now we expect to have grape and melon in the output as well. So when I run this code, I see apple, banana, cherry, orange, grape, and melon. They are added to the list of ours here in the end. So extend function can help us to have multiple insertion at the same time. Finally, what if we want to add one element at a certain position? For that, we need to use the insert function. And the insert function takes two arguments in the parentheses. First, the index where we want to insert the new element, and in the second part we are typing down the element that we want to insert. So here we are having the kiwi to be added in the index 1. So when I run this code, I expect to have apple as the index 0, kiwi as the index 1, and then the rest of the list like this as I'm typing down here. So everything as of index 1 is shifted to right because we inserted kiwi in index 1. So when I run this code, we see that kiwi is indeed added at index 1 here. So apple, kiwi, banana, cherry, orange, grape, and melon. So in this video, we learned how to modify a list in Python using append, extend, and insert functions. And we also learned the differences between them. For example, append can add item one at a time to the list, to the end of the list. Extend, however, can add multiple items to the list simultaneously in one go. And then we are having the insert function that can help us to insert one specific item at a one specific index or location in our list. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back. In this section, we're going to talk about tuples. So a tuple is a collection of data type in Python that is used to store multiple items in a single variable. They are useful for grouping related data type together, especially when data should remain constant. So now we are going to discuss the differences between tuples that we are going to discuss in this section with lists that we learned in the previous section. So tuples generally are immutable. It means that they cannot change after creation. They cannot be changed after creation, okay? But in lists, we saw that they are mutable. It means that we could add elements, we could remove elements, and generally we could modify the elements. This is not possible to be done in tuples. And when we want to define tuples, we use parentheses. However, when we wanted to define lists, we were using square brackets. In general, in terms of performance, tuples are faster because they are not changeable. They are immutable because of their immutability. However, lists are slower because they are mutable, because we can change them. Because of this option, they are slower. And typically, in terms of the memory usage, tuples are smaller in memory while lists are more using memory size as compared to tuples. And tuples generally are used for fixed data or the constant values, while lists are used for dynamic data that changes frequently. So these are the main differences that we can mention between tuples and lists. In the next videos, we are going to learn how to declare and initialize tuples and how to do certain operations using tuples. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture. In this video, we're going to learn how to create different types of tuples. So I'm typing down my first tuple called empty tuple, and then when I'm initializing it, I'm using parentheses as we discussed earlier in the previous video. And here I'm putting no element for this tuple. So it's a tuple that has no elements, or we can say an empty tuple. Then I am initializing another tuple with one element in it. So it's a single element tuple. And the name of this tuple, I name it single element tuple. It could be X, it could be Y, whatever we want. There is no difference. Then I'm having another tuple called mixed tuple, and it has three elements, one 3.14 and one string called hello. Please note that when we are putting the elements, for example, an integer or a float here, we don't need quotes. But when we are putting a string as one element, we must have quotes. This is something to be careful about, okay? So these are three tuples that we declared and initialized here, one empty tuple and one single element tuple and one tuple that has one integer, one float, and one string. Now we would like to print them. So I use the print function. In the first part, I type down the message that I want to be shown in the terminal, saying that, for example, empty tuple, and then one comma, and then type down the tuple name. The same logic goes for the second and the third tuple. Single element tuple in quotes because it's a message to be printed in the output, then a comma, then single element tuple is the name of my tuple that I'm putting there. Again, for the mixed tuple, I'm having the mixed tuple name, a comma, and in the first part, I'm having the message shown in the terminal. So when I run, I see that the message empty tuple that we have here is printed out in the output. And when I have the print of my tuple here, you see empty. So it's only parentheses because it's an empty tuple, okay? But here, when I have single element tuple, it is initialized to be 42. So here we see 42 in the output here. Then when I'm printing out the mixed tuple, I'm having 1 hello and 3.14. So in this video, we learned how to create different types of tuples. In the next videos, we are going to dive deeper into this concept. Thank you for your watching. Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture. In this video, we're going to learn how to access different elements of a tuple and how to do slicing. So I'm having one tuple called my tuple, and it has the elements 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. So it has 5 elements. And we know indexing starts from 0. So the first element has the index 0, second element has the index 1, third element has the index 2, fourth element has the index 3, and fifth element has the index 4. So now we would like to access the first element in this tuple. To do that, I'm using the print function, and in the parentheses I have two parts separated by a comma. In the first part, I'm typing down the message saying that first element, colon. Then I type down the name of my tuple, and in the square brackets, I type down the index of the element that I would like to be printed out. So now that I want to print out the first element, which is 10, I type down its corresponding index, which is 0, because we mentioned that indexing starts from 0. So when I type down 0, it is going to print 10 for me in the output. Then I would like to print out the last element in this tuple. I could either type down, for example, I could either copy this line and paste it here, and instead I type down index 4 to have this element, the last element, being printed. Let me correct it. Okay, so to last element being printed, or I could type down -1. I could also type down -1 to have access to this element. This one is -1, -2, then -3, etc. Okay, so this is how we can also access elements, start counting from the right to left using the minus. So I type down -1 also to access the last element, or I simply can type 4 here. So let me make it a bit closer to each other. Okay, so yes, and this is for this. Okay, now it's good. So let me run the code up until here. So let me comment the last line. So when I run the code, I see first element is 10, so 10 is being printed in the output using the index 0. Then the last element is 50 using index 4, or we could access the last element using -1, so the last element is 50 here again. We could also, for example, type down, for example, if I want to access this 40, I could either type down the index 3 or -2. So I type down -2 to access this 40 element. I would say element 40. Okay. So when I run this code, it shows the message element 40 and my tuple index -2 is printing the 40 here for us. Okay. But what if we want to print several elements of a tuple? So when I run this code, this part is called slicing. So we slice certain parts of the tuple to be printed out in the output. Okay. So here I'm saying that slice from index 1 to 3, 20, 30, and 40. Index 1 to 3 here. It means 20, 30, and 40. But how I'm doing that? So this is the message I'm showing, slice from index 1 to 3. So index 1 to 3 is this part. It means that it is going to print 20, 30, and 40 for us. Then I type down my tuple name. So the name of my tuple is my tuple. I type down its name. Then I use the square brackets as before. However, I have a colon in the middle. On the left side of the colon, I'm going to type down the starting point, the starting index, let's say, and on the right side of the colon, I'm typing down the ending index. So I'm typing down to start from 1 and end at 4. But we mentioned that we want slicing from index 1 to 3. Why am I typing down 4 here? The reason is that the starting point is inclusive and the ending point is exclusive. So it is going to include index 1 when I'm having this code here. So index 1 is being printed, index 2 is being printed, index 3 is being printed, but the ending point 4, which is this part, is not going to be printed because it is exclusive. So when we want to have slicing from index 1 to 3, we must write from 1 to 4. Okay, just add one number to the ending point because it's a rule that the ending point is exclusive. So in this video, we learned how to access elements of a tuple and how to do slicing for a tuple. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back. In this section, we're going to talk about sets. What are sets in Python? Sets are collection of unique elements in Python. They are mutable, but their elements must be immutable. Let me illustrate this concept with an example. Here I'm declaring a set. The set has three elements, 1, 2, and 3. So the set itself is mutable, meaning that I can add an element to it or I can remove one element from it. And when I print my set here, the set was originally 1, 2, 3. I added 4, then I removed 2, so the set will have 1, 3, and 4. These three elements. So it shows that the sets are mutable, so they are modifiable, let's say, in other words. However, the elements of our sets must be immutable. What do we mean by that? So a valid set, for example, is like this. We have one element called hello, one element is 1, and we have a tuple to be one element of this set. So a tuple is inside this set. And it is possible. Why? Because we learned in the previous sections that tuples are immutables. So when we are declaring a tuple, we cannot change its element. This is why they are allowed to be part of a set. However, this set would be invalid. Why? Because one element of this set is a list. So a list is inside this set and it is declared to be one element of our set. But we will have a problem with that because lists are modifiable. So they cannot be a part of a set if they are modifiable because we mentioned that sets themselves are modifiable or they are mutable, but their elements must be immutable. And because here we are having one element as a list, here it will have errors because this element that a list is now an element of our set and that element is modifiable. Therefore, there will be a problem. So we cannot integrate lists inside sets. And sets are generally useful for storing and performing operations on unique data. And one of their key features is that they do not allow duplicate elements. Let me illustrate the differences between sets, lists, and tuples that we learned so far. So sets and lists are mutable. So it means that we can add one element or remove one element from them. However, tuples are immutable. It means that they cannot change after they are created. This is why tuples can be one element of a set, but lists, because they are modifiable, cannot be one element of a set. Regarding the duplicates, sets do not allow duplicate values. However, lists and tuples, it's okay for them to have duplicate values as their elements. Regarding the usage, for unique elements, sets are for unique elements and they are fast membership testing and are very good for mathematical set operations. Lists are usually practical for dynamic collections of elements that frequently change, as we learned in previous sections. And for the tuples are very good. These are very good for fixed collections of elements that should not change. And with respect to the syntax to declare them or to create them, if we want to create a set, we need to define them with curly braces or use the set function here like empty parentheses. To define list, we learned that we are going to use square brackets, and to declare a tuple, we learned that we are going to declare them using parentheses. In the following videos, we are going to talk about different concepts of sets, and we are going to provide a lot of coding exercises so we get familiar in this section with sets in Python. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In today's video, we are going to learn how to create sets and different types of set creation. Here, I'm having my first set being declared using set function. So when I'm having this set function to be assigned to a set variable, it means that I am defining an empty set. So whenever we want to define an empty set, we are going to use the set function. Then I'm having another set being created. It is called numbers, and this set is having 4 elements: 1, 2, 3, and 4. And finally, I'm having my third set being declared here, and it has 3 elements: 1 integer, 1 float, and 1 string. As we see, there is no problem if there are elements of different types, of different data types, let's say. And finally, I'm here printing out these 3 created sets, where I'm showing the message empty set, set of numbers, and mixed data set. And I'm calling their name. So I'm putting the name of my sets, so it is going to print them. When I run this code, I expect to see the sets here in the terminal, the values of the set. So the empty set is returning only this for us. So it says it's an empty set, so nothing to be shown there. And for the set of numbers that we are printing the message here, it is printing numbers variable, which is a set here declared, and its elements are 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we see them in here. And finally, here I'm having mixed data set, which is calling this mixed set, and it contains 3 elements: 1, hello, and 3.14. So in this video, we learned how to create and print elements of a set. Thank you for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to learn how to add and remove elements from a set. I'm declaring a set here, and I'm initializing it to 1, 2, and 3. So there are 3 elements here being assigned to this set, and the name of my set is my set. So in order to add one element to this set, I'm having the name of my set, then the add function, and in parentheses, I type down the value that I want to be added to this set. So let me comment the rest of the code first, and afterwards we're going to investigate those as well. So now I added one element to my set, and this value 4 is added to the set, so the set is updated, and now I'm printing the message after adding 4. Then I'm printing my set. So when I run the code, I see this in the output. After adding 4, this message, and then the set is being printed. Now the set BC has 4 elements: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Previously, it had only 3 elements. So we learned that we can add elements or values to our set. So now we're going to discuss how to remove elements from a set. So our set is now having these 4 elements, and I would like to remove element 2. So number 2, I want to eliminate it from my set. I type down my set dot remove, and then I type down number 2, and then I'm printing the message saying that after removing 2 and printing out my set. So after removing 2, when we compare this set with the last version of the set, the previous version of the set, let's say, we see that number 2 is being removed here. One thing to mention here is that if the set does not have one element, and I type down the wrong element here. So I'm typing down to remove number 5, but there is no number 5 here. So it is going to give us an error. So it's a very good thing to know that if you type down the wrong number, you're going to receive an error from the compiler. There is another way to remove elements in a set. So in order to remove uh, elements in another way from a set, we can type down the name of our set, then use the discard function. And then in the parentheses, I'm going to type down the value or the number that I want to be removed. Then I'm showing the message after discarding 4, and then I'm printing my set here. So when I have this function discard being run, we see that after discarding 4, this message, and we're printing our set. So the previous version was containing 1, 3, and 4. So we discarded number 4 and we see only 1 and 3. So there are only 2 elements left now in the set. And one thing to mention here is that if we type down the wrong element number here in parentheses when using discard function, and when I run, it shows no error to me. So it runs, but it does nothing. Okay, so this is very important to know that. So in this video, we learned how to add or remove elements from a set. And also we learned if we are using the remove function, if we type down the wrong number in parentheses to be removed from the set, and that number is not existing in our set, it is going to return an error. We learned that we can do the same thing with discard function. We can remove elements with the discard function, but the difference is that if we are going to type down the wrong number that does not exist in our set, it is not going to return any error message for us in the terminal, so we are not able to trace it easily if we are typing down the wrong number. So this was it. In the next videos, we are going to dive deeper into the set concepts. Thank you for watching.